we're showing here is the HP Touchpad. It's a, let me go over the hardware first. It's a great 9.7-inch display at 1024 by 768. It has a Gorilla Glass covering, and so it's great for scratch resistance. So for a display that's always available, always accessible. Really important to have the scratch resistance service. We've incorporated a couple of new features, 1.3 megapixel camera, and so in our event a couple of days ago we showed a prototype of Skype video conferencing working on that, so great for connecting with video conferencing as well. We've incorporated the next generation of Touchstone, which is wireless charging on the Touchstone dock. And there's some data transfer that can work across our Touchstone system as well. I'll show that in just a little bit. We've also partnered with Beats Audio to do a Beats great audio reproduction system. So our audio is great as well. And all of that powered by the Qualcomm 8060 processor. It's a dual-core processor running at 1.2 gigahertz. It runs WebOS, of course, and let me show you a couple of things about that. WebOS is really about bringing lots of content together, all of your online digital life, and making it available into one easy view, easy and accessible view on your system. So let me show you an example of that. What you'll see here in the email app is an example of Synergy where I have both my Google and my Exchange accounts. And so here we've changed the email app a little bit to take advantage of the great real estate that is available on the Touchpad. So you can look at all your HTML email, which is great for viewing. But let's say that I want to forward this to someone, and so I'm going to start that email. The other aspect of WebOS that we highlight is the ability to easily multitask and easily get productive with the system and not have to end a task before you start another. And so on the system, I can say, I want to forward this to a colleague and say, let's talk at 5. And so a couple things on the keyboard. We've added the numbers row here, so you don't have to constantly switch modes when you're entering numbers. We've also made it able to size the different sizes. So you can have a small keyboard to see more of the display, or I tend to like the medium keyboard that gives me a little bit more area to type on quickly. But here, I'm not going to finish this email because I'm not sure what my calendar is. And so one of the great things about WebOS is I can simply move over to another application very quickly. You'll notice here, like just as I had in my email, Google, and Exchange, I have all my calendar sources here in my calendar as well. So I can see my personal calendar that I share with my spouse. I have a work calendar that's coming from Exchange, and maybe a Facebook calendar that shows my group events. So I'm just going to scroll down here, and it looks like I have a conflict at 5 o'clock here. So I can go right back into my email and decide, better make that 6 o'clock. I can finish this now, but I'm not going to. What I can do instead is, just like you multitask during the day, you don't have to finish this. You can go back and read more emails if you want. You can look at your other accounts and clean out your inbox. You can start a new task or activity. I could go and reply to a second email. But what I'm going to do is, I don't want to forget about this, so I'm going to move this over to the side. And I'm just going to leave it there. That's a good reminder for me to finish that later on. I don't have to finish it now. I just move on to whatever I want to now. So that's a good example of multitasking on WebOS. Let me go into another application. So Photos here is, we've added some of the elements of WebOS that you saw in those applications to Photos. And Photos is more than just looking at local content. It's certainly great at doing that. It has a great photo viewer in it. But we've also consolidated content not just locally, but from all your online sources as well. So you have your local content, you have your Facebook photos, and if you have an account with PhotoBucket or Snapdish. And the great thing about that is when I go into my Facebook album, I can look at, let's say, a photo here, and I can see what people are commenting on in that photo. So it's all about communication with photos as well, and not just looking at photos statically. So I can take a look at that without leaving the Photos application. I can make a reply to that person and consolidate all my activities around digital photos in one application. Very easy to get to. The other thing that we've done here, working with the HP Printer Group, is I can do a bonjour search for the printers that are in the area, and then just print directly from the Photos application as well. So some neat aspects to Photos that we're bringing as part of WebOS. So the other thing that we'll take a look at is notifications. So let me go into a web page, and let's say we're just browsing, and I'm just going to pull up the SI site. You'll notice that as reminders and notices came in, they didn't take over the system, and so they didn't force you to interact with them. One of the things that we try to enable in our multitasking operating system is the concept of unobtrusive notifications. And so you simply tap up here, and if you want to deal with the notification, you can. If you can dismiss it, you can as well. And without going into the Google Mail application, I can simply dismiss it from there. If I have multiple notices there, I can just go through and dismiss them all and know if I'm actually missing anything important. So a great way to keep doing what you're doing without having to move into the application itself. So a great multitasking operating system. So it's great for productivity, but it's also great for content. So one of the things that we're doing is working with Amazon, and I'll go into the Kindle application here. So you'll have great access to all of the Amazon Kindle application or bookstore. And so I'm going to move this into portrait mode here because that's a little bit more natural for reading. And then what you see here is my book collection. So right now, oddly enough, I'm looking at something on Barcelona. And it's a great product for looking at both images in books as well as the text of the books itself. This supports all the features of the Kindle app, so if I want to comment on the book or if I want to highlight certain passages, I have access to all that. It supports whisper sync, so if I'm reading this book on my PC as well, whatever I've read up to that point will sync up to this point in the book, so the two keep in sync. So it's great for reading content, very flexible that way. So great for reading. The other thing that I have on here is an application, Armageddon Squadron. And most of our developers take web content with web tools that are developed in HTML and CSS and JavaScript, and they can easily port that over to WebOS. But sometimes our developers want to take existing libraries, C and C++ libraries that they've invested in, and port them over into the device. We have an easy way to do that through what's called a PDK, a plugin development kit. Armageddon Squadron is a great example of that. So this is a company. They've developed a game with a graphics library for their system, and you can see here, we'll just start this up, that it's a great example of a very fast processor with lots of, you can see I'm not very good at this, and before I crash, with lots of power, before I crash I'm just going to card this and go back into the operating system. So a really great way to show the power of the system that can be plugged in through our PDK in a multitasking environment. So I'm just going to get rid of that. The last thing I want to show you here is what we call touch to share. And touch to share is the ability to make our devices work better together. And so let's say we're looking at a article here, and I'm going to call it, the example I've been using is all recipes. And so, I'm on the couch and I'm looking at, what we're going to cook for dessert a little bit later. And so I'm going to tap on the cupcakes here. And there's an ingredients list. So on that ingredients list, instead of going to the store with my touchpad, which I can, that'd be great. But you know what? I'm just going to take my phone instead. So to do that, I'm going to simply touch the phone to the device. And you'll see here that it's pulling up the web content that I've been browsing on the touchpad. And the ingredients list is right there. I can take that with me. And this is a way for us to build technologies that make our family of devices work better together. So that's the other thing that we're showing here at the show.